Hello, Internet, and welcome to Random Gibberish. So, I haven't really done a good video in a long time. This is going to be a bad video for that, but I just kind of wanted to run through some comics I've been reading recently because I haven't really talked about what's been in my pile in forever, and I've been fairly negative about what I've been talking about. And I want to talk about a lot of the different stuff I'm reading because especially this week, it was mostly positive. There's some stuff, and we'll get there, but I think it's understandable. I don't want to go off on it too much. Also, I want to talk about some of the trades I just pulled up. Not that I've necessarily read too many of them, but just kind of talk about that and where I'm at with some comics. So, yeah, just kind of dig through some stuff and talk current comic affair for myself because I'm not watching the Super Bowl. So first up, I want to talk Cable in Deadpool and Cable now. Split Second, which I believe was internet series that they're bringing to print now, and so each comic you get 2 chapters, and they're at $5 a pop. But these have been fun and plant palette cleansers. I don't think these are as grand as the old comics were, but they've been fun enough, and for what's currently out there, I've been enjoying it. What did bug me though was the second issue. There was a color split, so kind of the reds were shifted a little high and the blues were shifted a little low, and it created this weird fuzzy effect that was a little annoying to put up with. But it's a fun kind of like time travel take and playing on Cable, and so it's kind of the thing of Deadpool being our POV, but the comic really being about Cable and what he's done. So I think it's cool. I think it's fun, and it was something I kind of needed, especially after going through some of the Deadpool stuff recently to kind of get on that. But along those lines, I also got Spider-Man Deadpool 1, of course, and this was incredible. This was kind of... It was interesting because this was kind of more of the Deadpool that I like. Joe Kelly, and some of what I was talking about last time with the humor, some of it, I mean, was just more the situation set up, but there were more jokes, and not all the jokes landed, but I caught myself actually laughing and enjoying it, and it was really cool for that. Also, the story moved a lot more, and I didn't do a count per se, but there's clearly more dialogue in this than there are the standard Deadpool or really the standard Marvel comics anymore. And it wasn't like it was dense or anything, but there was just something to read. There was something to joke about. There was something going on. I think that's a big part that I kind of don't think about too much anymore, is that some of these comics now are expensive and thin. Maybe not in pages per se, but in word count or however you want to look at it. Just not a lot going on. And so this kind of made me realize that because it was an example of not doing that and being great for it. So I really liked it, and man, the humor was just there, and this comic was just kind of gross, but playing with the body humor in a way that was totally apt to the plot and just kind of weird and bizarre and just, good comics. Then in the back of my Spider-Man Deadpool, I got a reprint of Vision 1. And some people have been going on about Vision. For me, Comic to Comic was really trying to push it on me, saying you think I'd like in the way he was describing it. It didn't quite sound up my alley. But it actually is really cool. It's kind of a really science fiction-y concept, these robots trying to blend in with society. Basically, there's some Marvel backdrop, but it's written in this kind of more so literary pace and understanding than most superhero comics are, I'd say. And it's really kind of engaging and fun, and is playing with all these different concepts, and the first issue really moved. I want to check it out, but at this point I'm thinking I'll probably just get a trade when it comes out, because I think it's darn near 6 issues, and I think trades are at 5 issues now a pop. I don't know. So it feels like there has to be one right around the bend. And it's a darn interesting comic, and I know more and more people have been coming onto it. I'm hoping that actually ends up being kind of a sleeper hit, and not just something that goes to the wayside, because this is something vital and interesting, and that's great. Though I will say, this is nothing against it, but pairing it with Spider-Man and Deadpool, I don't know who came up with that idea. Because I mean, it's thinking with like two different brains. Um, it just, it was a total, total shift going from one thing that was off the wall, zany and fun and crazy and bawdy to kind of this high-minded analysis of humanity through robotics. Whoa, my face just lit up with orange because my wallpaper changed. So there you go. That was an interesting take. But part of the reason I wanted to highlight those comics in particular, and I think there's a couple more Marvels in here, is I've been really down on Marvel recently, and I don't think I'm wrong to be down on Marvel recently, but there are some good comics. They just weren't the ones I was reading at the time. And it was very refreshing to just come in and read something that was good and fun and there. And so there we go. Not all comics are bad. We're not all going to die or anything. There you go. Next up is, I want to call it the notorious issue of The Island. There's kind of 4 things in here, but there's really only 2 because a couple of them are like 2-page things that are fun, cool asides, but compared to the bulk of content, 2 pages just doesn't, stand out. But they were great additions, but not a lot to say, just something to experience. But so there's 2 main parts, and the first one is this cover. This is obviously furry crap and not my thing, and I honestly hate it. And I hate furries, and this thing's all about why I hate that in that culture. Knew some people like that growing up, and it's not to be down on gays, but it was all super like, oh, we're gay and we're special because it's just annoying. Like, it's just the worst of that, and it's weird. And honestly, this character up here, up front and center, is supposed to be male. I didn't get that, and and it's just kind of gross and terrible. And if you like it, fine, whatever, have fun in your corner. But after it, there was a land called Terra, which was a completely silent tale of kind of like the Frog Prince, but a really weird. It keeps twisting on that idea, but it keeps twisting on all these ideas and playing with it. And there's just like I need to find a way to scan that and make a background or something. There's just these beautiful, detailed pages that you just have to sit there and take in, and no dialogue. And it was just, that was something to experience, and that made this worth getting. But I wish they had gone another way with the cover at least. But Island continues to be interesting. It's a mixed bag. You're not going to like everything, and that's kind of part of what makes anthologies great, is because you're not going to like some stuff, you're really not going to like other stuff, but then other things are going to blow you away, and you never would have gotten the what's gold to you if you hadn't suffered through the rest. So interesting, but I think I've liked every issue more overall, just because. So Paper Girls 5 is out now, and this book I'm still trying to dial it down. I definitely stayed with this because of the known talent, and I wasn't really sure with the first issue, but every issue since has been more interesting. Now I see that the first issue is really just character grounding, and we've had really great character moments since, but that's all the first one was, and then building to it. But we're at the 5th issue, now we're in crazy town sci-fi land, and I wouldn't have necessarily guessed that from the onset, and this is turning out to be a really exciting experience. I'm still of the mindset though that I think this as a shorter run would be stronger because it's just kind of all over the place, and I think to kind of keep the momentum, it would eventually kind of run out of steam. But I don't know. This book has been surprising me and on the uptick every issue that comes out, and I really never know what to expect, which is frankly really exciting right now. It's never my favorite comic, but I'm always more impressed with it when I put it down than when I picked it up. So that's nothing wrong with that, right? Next few don't have a lot to say, so I'm just gonna go through. Chew 54. We're kind of in our end stretch now, but this is playing with some bizarre sci-fi and weirdly some weird metatextual stuff that they've never really played with before. Before Chew's had like call forwards where they're like, oh, we're going to play with something like this in this issue, but those are in captions, whatever. This is held within the text of the comic, and pays off in this issue alone. I would recommend Chew to everyone. No way you can pick it up now. Just go back and read the trades. It's easy enough. I think this is going to be akin to the Vertigo Brass Ring thing, somewhere around 60 issues, and just this crazy awesome example of what comics to do and be among some of the best for it. And this is consistently one of the funniest damn comics out there. And the art style, man, Rob Guillory, I don't think he did too much before Chew. I mean, I know he did some stuff, obviously, but just these pages are so colorful and so creative, and I don't know, it's just, it gives the comic this flair. Like, if you had anyone else draw it, it would be a different comic and probably wouldn't have succeeded in the way it has. That's just awesome, right? I don't know. So Shudder's back. We're at 18, which is fitting because this is kind of a issue about growing up. We kind of get the plot scattered, but we have this character moment between two of the female characters. And I have to admit, I'm a little annoyed because it's like we have this strong, crazy, adventurous female character, and then she's a lesbian. I don't know, it just seems like... Really? It seems like the way to add more diversity to women is to make them a lesbian, so now it feels like you're hitting this weird thing where that's like stereotypical rather than diversifying, I guess, or anything. I don't know. It just hit me as a little irksome. That's maybe just the circle of where I'm at in what I'm digesting content-wise right now. But I will say, Owen Gienni, the colorist on this issue, pulled out all the stops. There's different eras that the book's conveying as they're going through, and the way that they color it really signifies when we're switching between that, and without that cue, it wouldn't have been what it was. And this issue, I feel like, is probably the most clear. It's the most clearly written issue that they've done so far, but for that, it's also the least like bonkers off the wall creative. And not to say that there's not some really cool pages, which has been part of what makes this comic so great, but there's no crazy like spaceships with flying people, mafiosos, shooting Tommy guns off the side. There's a few kind of cool looking things, but comparatively this is a much tamer issue, which, since we're kind of gearing up to go forward, that's fine, but I'm really hoping we get back to that high octane energy that really fueled Shudder to begin with. Also, there's no little back matter bit. There's a pinup page, but there's no like little side comic like we got, and that was a little disappointing to me. I thought we were going to get that back. So, continuing on the Marvel trend, Extraordinary X-Men 5, this is the end of this arc. This is X-Men comics. I mean, it's been fun for me to read through because I like X-Men, but this is kind of a junky kind of thing. It's hard to swallow the fact that X-Men is kind of right now this junky superhero comic instead of kind of playing off the metaphor or doing anything more, because the way the Marvel universe is structured right now, I guess they can't really do anything about that. I don't know. So it's annoying, it's a little disheartening, but at the same time this issue is kind of fun. this is the kind of thing that was fun to read in issues as it came out, the Extraordinary X-Men, but it's not something I don't think I'd ever go back to. There's nothing more to explore or anything. It's just the action and the little bit of character moment that's there. Yeah, and I know there's a whole line in maybe some of the X-Men comics. Right now, I would know. It'll be interesting to see where this drops off for me because I got this through a Marvel sub, and this issue's fine. There's just a little ding in the corner, whatever. But this has to be the best condition issue I've gotten from the Marvel subscriptions, and if they were all like this, I'd keep going. But I've had stuff folded and bent. And, I'm done. I'm done. This is a book I consistently forget about, but every month it comes in, I'm like, oh right, and I can't wait to read it. Is Spider-Woman. She's been pregnant and dealing with the Skrull invasion at the same time. It's all we've gotten so far of this run, third issue in, but it's playing off of Hopeless, who was writing before. This has just been, it's been so good. This is definitively one of the best comics Marvel is putting out. This is just damn fun if you're one of the people, like, I don't know, Cammy, who's just looking for female superheroes and stuff. You don't get better than this. They're playing on the friendship with Captain Marvel and everything. It's just, it's just kind of wonderful. And the whole pregnancy thing, I'm really curious to see where that's going to go. It's just got me at the edge of my seat. Black Canary 7, this comic's finally kind of gotten its feet under it and now is running and gave itself a chance to just slow down a smidge to kind of give itself some substance, I feel. And now that we're there, we're at a hell of a cliffhanger, so this is another that I'm really curious to see where it's going, and this is one of the very few DC books I'm worried about right now, because if they're relaunching everything, I don't think this is going to make the cut, or if they do, something's going to happen to it, right? So, I'm worried. But on the other hand, if they do just cut it and ends up being this small, contained story, it would be nice to just kind of have that moment in comics, so. And if they went back to more of Black Canary before the new 52 started, I'd love that even more, but to kind of go down the more negative for a minute, Green Arrow 49 came out. Green Arrow, you won't be able to tell by this variant cover, which isn't much of a variant cover. Green Arrow is a werewolf? It sounds like they're just reaching for ideas, but at the same time it's kind of interesting because while this is going on, they have this kind of political, rich bad guy story going on as well. It's just kind of weird to be taking these desperate elements while, the space in which Green Arrow is operating is kind of influenced by a few different past runs right now. It's just a really weird comic, and I know they're going to have to reboot this in some way or another when the reboot happens. And they're not going to get rid of Green Arrow, but they don't seem to really know what to do with Green Arrow right now, because in the new 52 run, he's had roughly 5 incarnations, I want to say, if you include the Arrow comics themselves. So, yeah, I'm kind of... It's not a good comic. I can't recommend it to anyone, but it's fun to go along for the ride right now, and this is a comic that should be $2.99. Yeah. Then the other side, at Higher Hopes, Deadpool, The Merc for Money, is really playing off of the main Deadpool series with all the different various Marvel Merc characters, and this one was written by Bunn, who did a lot of Deadpool minis and stuff that I enjoyed. This fell short for me, so I tried it. I'm done. I'm out. This wasn't for me. So 2 out of 4 Deadpool comics running currently I'm liking, but the 2 I'm liking are miniseries, so Oh well, take what you can get. Um, then here we go. Batman and Robin Eternal Burr-chernal. Yes, Burr-chernal. That's not going to catch on. This issue is my least favorite so far, and it's not a bad issue. It's just that this one was completely Batman centric, and the whole thing that I've been loving about this is we kind of have like the Robin core, and that's been something I've been wanting for a long time. But this one, pretty much. No, I think this, as of this issue, all the questions from the first issue are answered. Obviously, questions as the case has progressed are not fully answered yet, but I haven't looked ahead. I have no idea how long this is supposed to run. But if this ends up being a 26 issue run, that would actually be probably really cool. So, I kind of have some high hopes for this. I hope this gets back more to the Robin side of thing, and then Batman is just persona non grata for most of it. But we'll see. Less Batman is a good thing right now because nobody likes Gordon Bats, right? I don't think so. Is anyone for that? I haven't heard anyone really be positive about it. I've heard some people, not hate it, but I don't know anyone who's like, yeah, this is great. Uh, yeah. So, Amazing Spider-Man, we're at 007. Why do they have the two O's? I don't. It seems really bold for Marvel to be putting up 3 digits when they can't seem to get to 2 anymore. Uh, man, this Spider-Man run is weird because I like it, but it's not Spider-Man to me. It's not the soap drama that Spider-Man is and has been since right after its inception. Spider-Man is an ongoing, it has been that, but Amazing Fantasy 15 was whatever. But this is just a high stakes superhero comic with Parker as the 1%, whatever. And it's an Iron Man comic. This is an Iron Man comic now, which is weird. Because my understanding now is that Iron Man is a spy comic, which by default means if there was a Nick Fury comic, that would be the Spider-Man comic, right? I don't know. So this is a weird thing to take. It's a completely different direction for Spider-Man, and I do not like the direction. The writing is strong enough to make this work, and the art is fun for me. I know a lot of people who don't get behind the style as much. Matteo Buffagani, I guess. Okay. I mean, this is a slick, fully produced Marvel comic, of course, but I don't know. It's not quite as good as it should be, but it's fun. This is weird because this is not an era of Spider-Man that I think we'll end up looking back on with much interest. I think it's going to end up being a footnote because eventually they're going to have to kind of knock Spider-Man back down from this because Spider-Man doesn't work on a global stage. It was never supposed to go there, and it doesn't feel right for it to be there. Human interest kind of drives a lot of what made Spider-Man great, and when you take that away, I don't know where the comic pulls from when it needs inspiration anymore. So that'll be interesting. But then again, who knows when the hell Dan Slott's going to get off this thing anymore. So it'll be really interesting to see when that day comes, how that transition is going to be handled. And then last but not least, at least for my run, I'm going to talk a little bit more because, long videos sell. Turtles. This is the best damn comic. I don't know why. I just love this more and more every issue. And man, like, you could pick this up. You could pick up 54, read it on its own and get something out of it. But obviously, there'd be more to get if you were reading everything else. And this issue is really cool, and it really kind of builds Michelangelo as his own character and just giving him an edge that Raph was the one that used to have in a way. So I'm really enjoying this. Also, hot damn, look at that cover. That's just the best. So yeah. Okay, and now I'm just going to talk trades and stuff and see if I drum up interest with anyone who's randomly watching. Concurrently, I'm still plowing through Irredeemable. That thing's a hoss. Supposed to be talking about that at some point. Just got done reading Animal Man, talking about that. You obviously all watched that with intent, care, and careful consideration. Hang on our every word. Me and Sleep Reader. That was a fun experience. I don't know. Yeah. A lot of what I want to read next, I kind of have earmarked. I kind of want to dig back into Spawn. I kind of put that on hold. I really want to be reading some Constantine, Hellblazer specifically. I kind of put that on hold. Then after that, there's a whole bunch of other things I want to read. East of West is also really head up there. But there's a lot of things I want to read that I've had sitting around forever. I don't think I've said this, maybe I have, I don't know. My New Year's resolution was to, beyond my weekly pull stuff, is to read a trade or trade equivalent of comics every week. That's kind of backlog or trade or whatever, just to kind of get through some of it and just kind of to be in it again. The problem is so far I am way ahead of that goal. I'm reading, I think the lowest I've read is 2 trades a week so far. Since I'm starting. Just a lot of it hasn't been my favorite. So actually this week was really good to like get those Deadpools I loved and read some of that Spider-Man and then get that Vision comic. That was just something I kind of needed to kind of re-up on why I'm going through all this. But we stopped at Second Charles today. I spent a little too much, but it's rare that I go there and find a pile of decent stuff at a decent price. So I'm just going to kind of plow through that, see if any of you are interested, and just kind of talk about it. Because that's the thing. There's something about it I kind of want to get at. I don't know. So the first up is JSA. Not too long ago, and someone was asking about this. J-Rocks, I believe. Maybe I'm mixing up comments. I went through the relatively famous JLA, the like Morrison, Wade, and so on run not too long ago, and that was really satisfying. That was really great. And so these trades, one was 8, 2 of them were $6 a pop, JSA, and I'm going to start on these, and if I enjoy these, which there's a damn good chance I'm going to, I'm probably going to start just trying to collect these, and I think you can find these for relatively a song, so that could be a cool thing to go through, and that's a good way to get a pile of comics for cheap. And I don't know many people who talk JSA. That seems like the cool kid side of DC Comics, so that could be kind of fun. I don't know, and that's kind of that's kind of like my era of comics now, because now it's all in the past, and I'm an old crotchety man that doesn't like the current stuff. So that should be interesting. I got American Born Chinese. Some of you might remember me talking about that NPR one. I hadn't read it. This was there. It was $5. I'm actually really excited to read this. It's meant to be a children's book, so it won't take me long. Yeah. They had 2 X-Men trades of older X-Men stuff that I want to read that are oddly collected, so I got Mutant Massacre. This is something I wanted to read since I was like 8. Yeah, so I'm kind of excited about that. And then Fall of the Mutants kind of plays off that. This is only volume 1 of 2 trades. I'll be on the lookout for the second one. But this is a whole era of X-Men. I know there's other stuff in there, but I've wanted to read some of this stuff forever. Basically ever since Uncanny X-Men 350 came out, which was playing off Gambit back when I was really into Gambit. and he apparently played a part in the Marauder stuff, but it was apparently behind the scenes, so I don't think you actually see him in here. But I'm really curious about that area. That had me kind of like look into a little bit, and that was before the internet, so looking into it was hard, and yeah. It wasn't before the internet, it was before I had easy access to the internet. I only had Telma, and no one cares. Next up, and Longbox Reviews said he might want to talk about this. So that'd be great. And this is something that I've been curious about for a long time because I grew up with Wizard Comics and they kind of talked about this. Because Kevin Smith liked it and they did nothing but suck off Kevin Smith, basically. Wizard was just sucking off Kevin Smith monthly. Mage, The Hero Discovered, 1, 2. There they actually had the hardcovers and soft covers there, and the prices weren't too off. I think the second volume the prices were the same. Weird. And then the first one was off by $2, soft cover being cheaper. But the colors in the trade paperback were brighter and a bit more vibrant. So I went this way with it. Also, I think it'll fit a little better on the shelf. Yeah, man. This is exciting. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Mage. This is some kind of old school Image stuff, but I'm stoked. Trinity, Matt Wagner. Some of you might remember I asked for Batman recommendations a long time ago, and more than one person recommended to me, like, what was it, Batman versus the Mad Monk and Batman Monster Men, that whole thing, which were the Matt Wagner ones. And then this was advertised in both. This is the Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman Trinity of Matt Wagner, not that really crappy weekly series. This is something I've wanted to read since then, and I haven't been able to really find a copy on the cheap, so I am stoked to have gotten this hardcover for cheap. I'm sure a lot of you have read this, but man, after Mage also being Matt Wagner, I'm kind of realizing kind of the talent Matt Wagner is, because he's one of those dual threats like Frank Miller was, you know, writing and drawing in this really great stuff. Also, I'm flipping through Mage, I'm getting the sense he's also an incredible letterer, and that's something we don't talk about, like, ever. Who talks about lettering? But when you see how, like, dense some of those panels are, and the amount of words that are clearly conveyed and easily read, like, that's something we don't look at anymore, partially because some of our comics are so loose and not tense enough that we don't need to think about it, which is making me realize that's really kind of a shame, making me realizing how comics have kind of slid one way, not the other, and that's annoying. This one I did read already. JLA Earth 2, they did an animated special off of this. I got this for less than the price of a current Marvel comic. Man, the comic's better. No question. I mean, of course, but I mean really better. Like, they twisted the plot around. And when it comes to comic adaptations versus animation, like, usually the Timmyverse stuff, like, I'll say, actually sometimes, but no, this one, the comic is way better, partially because Owlman at the end of the animated one goes on this weird, like, super evil bend that's so Saturday morning cartoon evil, it just kind of sucks the reasoning out of it. And this one plays it off in a different way and is kind of more enjoyable, and they play with the Earth 2 idea in here in a way that's a bit more fun, I think. If you can get your hands on this, this is some good semi-current DC stuff. Also, after reading Animal Man, it's a very different side of Grant Morrison. And here's the last one I got, and this one is kind of crazy. This is the old Garth Ennis Hitman. The back is kind of what sold me. No fancy costume, no magic tricks, just plenty of ammo, a bag of cigs, and a pitcher of beer. I think this is the way a lot of people kind of want the Punisher to be, but isn't. And it's just Garth Ennis doing it. Just seems like the perfect thing. I don't know, I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be a fun read. This is just going to be a great trade when I just need to pick up and have a larf, I think. So, yeah, I don't know. But, random pile of stuff. Yeah, if anyone cares. Then also, J-Rocks asked for me to talk about shelves, and I have shelves in this room I could get to, but currently my room is in disarray again. If I can... There we go. I got stuff to put away before I can even navigate the room to talk about it. Also, I want to talk about the manga shelves that we set up recently, but currently our house is kind of full up because we've been doing some kind of spring cleaning, but we need to get rid of the treadmill that we would use but doesn't work anymore, so we can't, and a few other odds and ends that make it kind of... So I've been thinking about it, but physically we haven't been able to because we haven't been able to get to the dump for a lot of bizarre, boring reasons. So there you go. Just kind of wanted to make a one, mostly just talk about some comics positively because I don't want to be that guy. I probably am that guy. Anyways, cool. Peace.